In grad school, I would go to meet my advisor, my PowerPoint slides full of exciting new results to show her. And I was like, this is gonna be the day where we finally make progress and get me one step closer to graduation. I would leave that meeting knowing that I'd have to trash everything that I worked on for the past 2 weeks. And this happened over and over again for like 5 years. Grad school was one of the hardest things I've ever had to get through because it felt like I was a prisoner. My life was literally in the hands of certain people that didn't have my best interests in mind. Here's how I eventually escaped that prison. After college, I moved across the country for a PhD program in applied mathematics. I got paired up with an advisor we'll call Dr. Ma, who was going to help me with my dissertation projects. We had very different backgrounds. I didn't agree with how she wanted to design the models that we were developing. But worse than that, she was impossible to work with. Imagine I only listened to the first 20% of what you say, cut you off right there, reinterpret it in my head, and then respond to that. Here's how that might look. Dr. Ma, shouldn't we have the model do this? It would be really simple to do and it makes more sense because no, that's not how it's been done, and they'll never take it seriously because A, B, and C. Right, well, that's not at all what I was suggesting actually, just a small change to the, but if you do that, we can't include G, H, and I. Look, you're so talented and I want you to be successful in this program, so please go back, reverse everything you did, and come see me in a couple weeks. Look, you're so talented and I want you to succeed. Look, you're so talented. I can't make this up. This is going nowhere, as you can see. Here is the first mistake to avoid. I could feel in my gut that something wasn't right, but I was too lazy to end that relationship and look for another advisor. These issues that I was having with her would continue. They were getting worse. As I entered my 5th year, I definitely expected to be defending soon. I had done tons of research and writing that I felt were ready for publication. However, from her perspective, I wasn't even close to being done. To complete the program, you gotta convince your advisors that you have completed valid work. And she ain't convinced. And she's not gonna let me advance if she doesn't like my model or results. So there's a strong power dynamic here, okay? She's ultimately in control of my life. Not good. I am like livid at this point because my time is being wasted. Around this time, a new student, Consuelo, joins the program. We don't know the details, but at one point she felt like she was being harassed by another professor in the department, Dr. F. So she complains to our department head, Gustavo. Now, Gustavo is very strict and uncompromising, and he actually sides with Dr. F, basically telling Consuelo to deal with it. Consuelo, even more hysterical now, takes her complaint higher up in the university, all the way to the presidential level. And long story short, both Dr. F and Gustavo are let go from the university. This is like a huge scandal now because he was like a really big player at the school. He had been there for decades, and now we literally have to find ourselves a new program director. The fights I'm having with my advisor is getting more and more intense and frequent. At one point, she effectively stopped helping me with my project. I couldn't really ask Gustavo for help, our director, because I knew what his response would be. Deal with it. So I'm seeing no light at the end of this tunnel. The one person that's responsible for getting me out of here is no longer helping me. However, with Gustavo ousted, my luck is about to change, folks. A new director, Fabiano, is appointed to our department from another sector of the university. He's very understanding, reasonable, easy to work with. He's basically everything that the previous guy was not. So I email our new director, who I've never met, with a formal complaint about Dr. Ma. I'm taking a huge risk because I'm just like circumventing her authority, and she could, use that against me and set me back even further if she wanted to. Luckily, Fabiano is very kind. He tries to pull together a meeting with all 3 of us to plan how we can move me forward in the program. She gets back with this long email basically saying she refuses to address the issue or even have such a meeting, and implicitly threatens that I can find myself a new advisor. I'm so emotionally drained. I don't even care what I'm working on anymore. I just want to get done. I feared that I'll never finish this program now with her being that stubborn. I actually decided to move back to the East Coast and just finish the program remotely because I'm just so done with this place. But during all this, I keep sending updates to Fabiano about what's going on. And amazingly, he eventually offers to take me on as a student, replacing Dr. Ma. Within 3 days, I write up an email to Dr. Ma and my other advisor with the subject line, "Peace out." That's not actually true. No, I tell Dr. Ma and my other advisor that I'm removing Dr. Ma from my committee. We had been together for 5 years at this point. Like, talk about a heavy breakup text. Like, that was a hard letter to write. For the next year, I work with Fabiano on my projects. What a huge difference it makes to be working with someone that actually supports you, is willing to compromise, and doesn't try to like force their way of doing things onto your life. Once I started working with him, I finished up the program in only 1 year. Did my dissertation over Zoom. End of story, the end. I will end it with 3 things that we can learn from this story. The first is trust your gut when it comes to relationships. If something doesn't feel right at the start, that feeling, in my experience, never goes away. It only gets bigger, and then you eventually have to split. Number 2, the situation that you're in might seem completely hopeless, but it might just take a little bit more perseverance. 60% of the students in my cohort didn't even finish the program. What made me successful was not being smarter or more disciplined. It was so much more about raw perseverance. And 3, if something doesn't feel right, do not be afraid to ask for help. You can really often change your situation by just finding the right people and speaking loud enough. See, I cut a hole in the cap because I couldn't get it off. Thanks so much for listening. I hope that that story resonated with you, and I really hope that you don't find yourself in a similar situation. It's important to just detect the warning signs early if you're entering a bad situation, and not accept that that's just what's happening, because it can end up wasting a lot of time for you down the road. I hope this story will help you not make the same mistakes. Thank you for listening. I will see you next time. Peace.